Okay, I want to convene the August 16th, 2022 meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust. As a preliminary matter, this I am the vice chair. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Brooke Moore.
I am here.
Meg Browers.
I'm here.
Chantal Murphy.
Here.
Dave Iverson.
Here.
And Penny Dye.
Here.
Okay, staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Haley Cook.
Here.
Tucker Holland.
Here.
And Vicky Marsh.
Here.
Right. And then anticipated speakers, I see Dave Arminetti. Can you hear me? Dave is muted, might be away. All right. And William, could that possibly be Billy Cassidy?
It is me, but you really don't want me to say anything, do you?
Well, you can just say you're here. I'm not sure. I have to look at.
I'm here.
Great.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know if I was supposed to be saying something.
All right. No. Okay, I think that's it. There are members of the public. Tucker, do I need to read them?
You can acknowledge him if you'd like. Actually, John is an anticipated speaker.
Okay. And John Merson as anticipated speaker. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay, good. All right. Good afternoon. This open meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Affordable Housing Trust is convening by video conference via the Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Right. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda and the ground rules. We're now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, the vice chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda after they conclude their remarks. The chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Okay, and after meetings have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. All right, finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. And that concludes item 1. Item 2 will be the approval of the agenda. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda? Anyone?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
So Dave and Brooke moved and seconded. Item 3, approval of the minutes. We have minutes
Sorry.
from,
I think we have to vote.
oh, on the agenda. Yes, thank you, Penny. All right, roll call, Brooke
Aye.
and Meg. Meg's muted.
Aye.
All right, Dave,
Aye.
Penny.
Aye.
All right, and Sean, there's Sean. I can't see Sean, but she's there.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, thanks, Penny. All right, now we can do number 3, approval of the minutes. Has everyone had opportunity to go over the minutes? Okay. Are there any changes that anyone wants to add or discuss? No. Okay. I would love a motion to approve all the whole sets of minutes from, let's see, from the March 2nd through July 26th. Anyone?
I'll make that motion.
Penny, great. Second?
And I'll second it.
Okay, great. By roll call, Brooke
Aye.
and Sean. Okay.
Aye.
Meg,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
and I vote yes. Okay, so that's unanimous. All right. Item 4, public comment for anything that is not on the agenda. Show of hands. Nope. Okay. All right. Moving on to item 5, the closing cost assistance program. And they're all closing cost assistance. We're going to start with the Delgado at 6 X Essex.
Oh, I'm sorry, but there's I apologize to trust members. There's an updated version of this. It's on the website, but we just removed a couple of CCAPs because they were not ready yet to be discussed.
Okay.
So we're actually going to go to, we can go to Calcate/Smith, Newman, and BenCat are the only 3, and the last one is a subordination.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't think I have an updated agenda in
I'm
front
going
of.
to put it in the chat now for folks. Sorry about that.
Okay. So we're starting with which one?
Kate Smith.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't even have that one on mine.
That should be on the original agenda.
Yeah, I think.
I have Delgado, Bell, Newman, and BenCat.
Okay.
I just forwarded
Chair?
it. I just forwarded it to you.
All right.
Rima.
All right. No, I'm looking at it from the chat.
And the materials are in the
Okay.
David's recent hands. Sorry.
Madam Vice
Okay.
Chair, Rima,
Yes.
you are you're Billy Cassidy on our screens, by the way.
What? It's just wrong. Sorry. I don't know that happened. Hold on. I gotta go.
I'm going to rename her. That was my attempt to rename his iPad, but I did it to
Oh.
Rima. So sorry.
It wasn't my fault.
I don't know how that happened. I'll change it.
Sorry.
Would say that it's a massive improvement you've gone through, Billy.
So
I'm just gonna, no, I'm not gonna, never.
All right. So Calcate Smith, does anyone have any discussion on the Calcate Smith 3A Millers Lane application? No, I'm like, I have too much on my screen. Brooke.
Rima, it's Brooke. I would like to put forward a motion to approve the Kate Smith application for closing cost assistance for the property at 3A Millers Lane up to $15,000 pending final closing costs at the end of once the closing is complete.
I'll second that.
Okay, Dave. All right, roll call vote on that. Let's start with Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Meg Browers,
Aye.
Chantal Boyce Murphy,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
and I vote yes. Okay. And the next one just disappeared again. Hold on. Oh, there it is.
Is
The
Newman.
at 16 Friendship Lane. Any discussion of Newman at 16 Friendship?
I'd be happy to make a motion,
Okay, Brooke.
Madam Vice Chair, to approve up to $15,000 of closing cost assistance to for the Newman family at 16 Friendship Lane, pending final closing costs.
Great.
Second.
All right, Dave. All right, by roll call, Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Meg Browers,
Aye.
Chantal Boyce Murphy,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Okay. The subordination for Bencat. Now, I was a little confused. This is a home equity loan as I saw it. Is that part of what we do for closing costs?
So in this case, this is a closing cost recipient who is looking to put a solar installation on their house. And
Okay.
so they're getting a home equity line to do that. They've provided documentation around the fact that the home equity line that's being taken out is entirely going toward this project. So the bank is simply asking for our subordination
Okay.
in order to allow this.
Good. So I'm entertain a motion to subordinate this to our mortgage.
Second.
I'm just asking for the motion.
I'm sorry. I'll make that motion
Okay, Dave.
to subordinate, do you need more information? Subordinate Ben Katz mortgage, I guess, right?
Home equity line of credit.
Home equity line of credit.
We're subordinating
We're subordinating
our
us.
closing costs.
Subordinating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah.
I'll second his motion.
Okay, great. By roll call, Brooke Moore
Aye.
and Meg Brower,
Aye.
Chantal Boyce Murphy,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Okay, got through those. Okay, now we are at item 6, 31 Fairgrounds update, and I see Anne and I have to scooch down, and Billy is still here, so whichever one wants to talk about that.
I'll start. Hello, Ann Cuspa, Housing Nantucket. So I think the last time that we came, we were telling you about the progress for buildings 1 and 8. So you'll see that the porches are being built around that. We did, as a construction subcommittee, we toured the property and we got inside of the units and we saw how things were moving along, and discussed all sorts of stuff about when the modulars will be coming, which we've already mentioned will be happening in September, the first of which is September 9th. And beyond that, we're trying to get money to install solar for the property so that we can get to net zero on the site. And that's, I think we're making some good headway there. And we're about to hopefully announce something soon about that. And Billy, what am I missing here? There's been a lot for sure.
Yeah, my apologies. I couldn't get to my unmute button quick enough, Ann. So there's not much to report beyond what Ann had said, although those of you that were at the construction committee meeting, the interiors of both buildings are now, you know, all the windows are cased, the doors are cased. The outside of the existing units doesn't really tell the full story about what's going on inside. The rough plumbing is done, all the kitchen cabinets are in, and so on and so forth. So good things are happening there. Finally, last week we received the siding, which I believe I mentioned the last time around is a 1x8 vertical grain cedar that is very precious material, and it is beginning to be laid out and going to be beginning to be applied later on today, which will continue on. There are 3 buildings in there that'll be similarly sided, buildings 1 and 8, those that are existing, and building 3, which is actually the next one coming. One floor in the basement, one of the basement floors was just poured yesterday. The other is prepped, ready, insulated, and will be poured either Thursday or Friday. And the cellar holes for buildings 2 and 3 have been dug. Art will be pinning those later on in the week, and footings will be installed, and we will be waiting. We are anticipating the arrival of more ICFs sometime next week, and that will move forward. September 9th is when building 3 begins arriving. And Anne was a little understated with the comment that she just made about solar. And I just want to say that she is making big strides, and I think it's really great. And I can't wait for her to announce what she is going to be announcing. And that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Billy. Any board comments on 31 Fairgrounds? No. Okay. Oh, Brooke.
I just want to say thank you to you guys for the ongoing updates, and it's beyond exciting to me to see this project moving forward apace. And I think it's great for the community, and it's great to have visible buildings, and hope springs eternal. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. And the orange trumpet vines are in bloom and still alive there, which definitely will make the family happy. So it's a smile every time I drive by.
We have been saving that trumpet vine specifically. You can see the stand has been kept at bay, but it's increasingly difficult. The various members of the family have requested pieces, and we're waiting until the fall. I've been told that it's not a good time to drop it down in the middle of summer. So
yeah, no, it's
or try to relocate. Pardon me.
Yes, it's a precious thing. I've had it for a long time. Okay, moving on to item 7, the Richmond Wildflower Acceleration, and I see I'll recognize Dave Arminetti for that.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Good afternoon to you and the board and everyone. We have a brief update this afternoon, but let me first, again, to all your points, congratulate Anne and Billy on their continued progress. As I've said before, we all know how critical all this housing is, and we certainly know how difficult and challenging it is to get to this point to where they are getting their project out of the ground. So continued congratulations. It's great. And, you know, again, the work of the board and the work and the commitment of the community now is really starting to manifest itself in different places and at a scale that's really starting to make a difference. So big deal. So we are continuing to implement our 24 unit phase. I think now we're down to only 2 of the 12 AMI tenants remaining for final certification. You know, they're fully qualified. They're not going to drop out, but some of the final certification until they can actually sign a lease does take a little while. So I think 10 of the 12 AMI units, the leases are fully signed and those tenants are in. I think there's 2 left that should be in by about September 1st. Otherwise, all the market rate units are occupied. So to the saying of your board and many people on the island. We've got, I think, about 35 heads in beds right now over there in these 24 units, and everything's going well. The site is being finished out, as those of you who may have been into the site recently see. We're just tying out the last few details of the site work, ADA ramps and tactile pads, curbing, the sidewalk tie-ins, and a little bit of the remaining landscaping and some minor site work in terms of adjusting grades and making sure the drainage is working. So we're really down to the end on this phase. Everything has gone very, very well, and we continue to appreciate and value the commitment and the support of the trust and the community, and we're looking forward to starting to move forward on our next phase, which will be 2 more 8-unit buildings, roughly kitty corner, about 200 yards from this phase, 47 and 49 Beachgrass Road. That building, the first of those 2 buildings, is going online in Pennsylvania at our modular builder Friday, and will be on island about the 1st of October. So we're on to our next phase. And again, we very much appreciate the support and continued leadership of the trust board and the staff and the support of the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Any comments from the board or staff or public? All right, seeing none. Thanks a lot, Dave. This is all good news. And
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. Item 8 is the 7 Amelia Drive request for proposals, review and approval. So, Vicki, do you want to talk about any updates you made since our last meeting?
So, yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair. So Haley had put together a revised version of this RFP, and I've taken a look at it. And unfortunately, I haven't made any changes as of yet because I got bogged down figuring out the size of the actual lot and the roadway layout. And so after discussions with Andrew Vorse, what we were able to determine is that there was a layout of the roadway as would be required, and that was filed with the town clerk, but there was never a final order of layout and taking of the easement in the roadway by the county. And there's not a final plan that's been done. I think Andrew thought that the final plan had been prepared, but it hasn't been. And so he's following up now to try to get that done. Unfortunately, surveyors on the island, as we all know, are very busy and backed up. And so we're going to try to push them along. But that won't necessarily hold up our being able to put the RFP out. It's just now that we understand what has happened, and we're going to try to find a way to describe what is actually going to be sold or available for development. And so that's basically where I'm at now. So I'm going to have to go back now and try to, describe actually the size of the lot and, some kind of sketch plan that will attach and all of that. So we'll be able to hopefully have this ready for review for your next meeting, would be my hope. And I certainly would, I don't know if any of you have looked at this RFP yet, but if you have any comments or questions that you want me to address in the RFP, I'm here to listen to you and try to respond to anything that you may have to say.
Great. Thanks, Vicki.
You're welcome.
Brooke.
So through you, Vicki, does that mean we should delay the issuance of the RFP until this is, obviously, if people don't know what they're what the parameters of the lot they're developing are, it's kind of pointless to have the RFP out there unless we could approve it pending that information being included in it. What's your,
So there's a couple of ways to do this. Sometimes RFPs are put out there with sketch plans, quite frankly, if we have a very detailed plan that can show the size of the lot, the location of the street. I think that there is a plan that perhaps the surveyor could provide for us that we could use as an exhibit. And then we comment in the RFP that as soon as a final plan is available, we will make it available to the proposers. But I think we'll be able to actually describe the lot fairly well. It just wasn't, we weren't sure, I think, what had happened. I think that everybody, for some reason, I think Andrew assumed that the road had already been laid out, and it has been laid out, but it wasn't taken. So there's nothing on record. So if someone were to go on record and look, there'd be nothing there to show that it had been laid out. So that's the reason that we would hold off. So I guess going back to your point, I mean, it's something that the board can think about, how quickly they want to get this RFP out. I don't know if there's a great sense of urgency for you to do that.
Okay, Tucker.
Yeah, I mean, I think we want to move forward with issuing it sooner rather than later. For like all practical purposes, the road has been built that goes over the lot. So there clearly are existing engineering plans that define, the use of that property. So I think, we can give someone who would be looking to potentially develop there a very good idea of what they have to work with, whether it's formally been taken or not. So I think there are a few additional tweaks based on the feedback that the trust gave at the last meeting that Haley's been coordinating with Vicky on, that we might, we could bring this item back at our, we're having a special meeting on 8:30. So, perhaps at that point we would have the map or the site plan that we would intend to use as far as distributing the RFP goes, along with these additional comments, and we could do a final approval at that meeting if that made sense to people.
That sounds good. As long as we have some kind of sketch designating the usable lot lines for the RFP, I think
Right.
we can move forward.
I think that you can do that. And then what we can do is incorporate into the RFP itself what the steps would be. It would just be a matter of finalizing a plan and having, an actual order of taking, a layout and order of taking of the easement. There'd be a public hearing on that pursuant to the statute, but basically that would be it. And then we would record these plans obviously as well. So we can certainly outline that in the RFP just so that people will understand what the process would be.
Okay, well, let's try to get that done at the special. Sounds good to me. Great. Okay, item 9, State of the Housing Workshop, discuss. And what are we discussing? When we're doing it? How we're doing it? Tucker.
Yes. So we're doing a State of Housing Workshop next Tuesday at, is it 12:30 or 12, Haley?
It's at noon, 12 o'clock.
At noon. Okay. Yeah. And it'll be live in the community room, but also you able to attend via Zoom. And the title is, I think we've discussed here before, is really, state of year-round housing on Nantucket, sort of where we've been, where we are, where we're going. And I can talk through, we don't want to preempt our own show on the next Tuesday, but Haley and I've been, working on the presentation deck for this, and I can just sort of run through the various titles, if you will, of slides. And, we're just looking to see after hearing these, if there's anything that jumps out to folks that, isn't captured in where we're going with this. So we're, planning to go through, who the housing players are. I mean, this is meant to be, conveyed in very simple, understandable terms. We're going to try to use as little jargon as possible. We will have a key terms slide just because some of it will slip in AMI, DHCD, et cetera, but kind of define those for folks, but go through, who the players are in here, a bit of, history and timeline as to when different organizations, came into effect, what progress has been made over, since the origination of the various housing entities, where we stand today relative to our SHI list requirements, what we see as, bringing us ultimately to the 10%. We're going to get into the funding that town meeting has appropriated, particularly over these last 3 years, where that has been spent and where it is presently allocated, and go over a map of where let's say sort of the 3 units and more housing that would be exclusively geared to year-rounders at a variety of different income levels presently is located, some of the sites that we're looking at developing next, and talk a bit about the select board's strategic goals toward housing, and how we can achieve those, in particular getting into the new ownership goal as well. So that is, in a very broad brush description, what we're planning to cover. And we just wanted to, get feedback from the board, whether there's something that's jumping out at you all that we really want to make sure to hit on during the presentation. Obviously, there'll be a question and answer period, and we encourage folks to ask questions.
Brooke?
Tucker, is there an update on the allocation of funding from town meeting for town employee housing? Is there any news on that can be shared, or is that still sort of in discussion?
I mean, we could certainly go over what the plan for the program is there. Yes.
Okay.
We would
Great.
be able to talk about that. And I see that Mary Mac has nicely prompted the question, where is the community room for folks who are watching this? That is where the select board typically meets and is located in the public safety facility at 4 Fairgrounds Road.
Tucker, how is this being advertised?
It's really largely being promoted through social media that Florencia, she's created a flyer for this and is promoting it through there. I mean, I plan to show up at the select board meeting tomorrow night and during public announcement, just simply remind folks that this is happening.
Okay. Brooke?
Can we authorize paid advertising, and particularly in the online newsletters? Like,
Sure.
Because time is short, like the Current and Daybreak, or,
Yeah. Sure.
Meg?
Would it be worthwhile to have Florencia or someone translate our ads into Spanish and do that like cross promotion as well?
I think that's important.
Yeah.
Okay, well, sounds good. And hopefully we can, as many of us as possible can show up and participate. But I really hope that the word gets out, because I know there are a lot of members of the public that are interested and would like to either tune in or come on by.
Well, spread the word. And as is there anything that folks didn't hear in the run through there that they felt was an obvious omission or something that we want to hit on?
Penny?
Yeah, I just, you're not, this is a question. Are other people who are heads of other affordable housing organizations expected to be there to answer questions or speak? Because the Housing Authority right now does not have an executive director.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the timing of this, just as it worked out, like Anne is not available either. So we're really, they're not expected to be there. And what I think intended to say, if there are specific questions that we can't answer, right here, we will get them to the appropriate person to follow up following the session.
All right, so I just want to go on record saying the absence of somebody from the Housing Authority does not indicate a lack of interest. It's simply where we are right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. All right, anyone else? Okay, let's move on to item 10, warrant articles for the 2023 annual town meeting. I see that we want to talk about the AMI levels that we're serving. There's been a lot of discussion about moving that up. And so we should talk about that. My question on that is, would that be changing our enabling legislation? How does that happen, Tucker? Or Vicki?
Well, I think I'm going to actually bring Vicki into this discussion. I think this was something that she had, brought up in terms of, further codifying, clarifying, the levels that we serve. So Vicki, I'm going to turn it over to you.
So right now, the trust has a declaration of trust, which is on record, which governs much of how the trust operates. And it also requires not just the Board of Trustees voting to make a change to that declaration of trust, but will also require a town meeting vote in order to be able to do that. So I think that the first step would be to get town meeting approval, if you are so desired, to change the population that you're looking to address as far as the affordability levels. There isn't anything right now in your trust that does that. And so everything that you do, whether it's through CPA money, for instance, has one level. And then, there are town meeting votes that have different levels. DHCD supports a different level of AMI. So there's all these different levels. And so I think to encourage the trust to be able to use those different levels, as well as cover a higher income level, which, there's been talk 200% to up to 240, that I think it may be, the board may wish to consider whether they want to put on a town meeting article that would amend the trust and that would enable the trust to provide to funding in projects that would cover up to whatever the AMI level is, whether it's 200, 240, as low as 150. I mean, that's a decision for you to make, but the mechanism would basically be, we would have an amendment proposed and it has to be approved by town meeting.
Great, thank you, Vicki. Brooke? Oh,
Dave had his hand up first.
Yeah, I didn't see the little hand. Sorry, Dave. Go ahead. And you're muted.
And it's fine. No, I guess my question is if we change that, and through you, Madam Chair, to Vicki, if we change that, we still are held to the funding levels of the outside funds we receive, like the DHCD or any of the money that we get that's already limited by the affordability level, right? This would just change what we can use town money we're given at town meeting
Right, so,
No, I
so
just wanted to get
basically,
it clear, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dave. So basically, you're correct. I mean, like, you know, projects that are funded, for instance, by CPC money, for
CPC.
instance, you know, only can have a certain level of AMI, up to a certain level. DHCD, they're only going to look at projects that are up to a certain level of AMI. Then they, you know, we can still develop these projects, but their concern is, you know, keeping their level of restrictions. So if, for instance, the town meeting articles that you propose to get funding from, if they have levels of AMI that go up to 200%, you could do that. You know, you really couldn't do it right now. It's hard to do it right now because you don't have anything that allows you to do anything more than lower and moderate income housing. And unfortunately, 200% AMI doesn't qualify under most towns in the Commonwealth. So that's why I think you know, you really may want to consider.
I 100% agree. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. So if we voted to change that, would that impact the money we got last year if we need to use that on a project, or will it only impact money going forward?
It would only really affect projects that you're going to be developing, that you're envisioning will have a higher level of AMI that you're trying to support. So you can still do the projects that have the lesser amounts of AMI restrictions on them. You know, certain articles had 30%, you know, as low as 30, 50%, up as high as 120%, or, you know, something like that. You can still do those, use that money for those levels. You're still restricted to use the money for those levels if you're going to get the money from those articles. But then when you go to the next round of funding, you could then increase the AMI levels that you want to use your money for.
But funding we've already secured won't retroactively get to be used. I'm saying town money won't retroactively be able to be used at the new funding levels if we vote them in.
No.
All right, perfect.
No, because they've already been, already been restricted. They were voted on and restricted for those specific levels.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Brooke, did you have a question before?
Thank you.
No, I'd like to hear from Tucker because I think he's going to tell us what was approved at town meeting for the funding buckets we already have.
Yeah, so we have, like, every piece of or bucket of money we get, we have to abide by whatever the upper limit is of that bucket. We have some buckets that actually do not technically have AMI numbers associated with them. So in a way, those could apply to a new level because there wasn't a specific number associated with the wording of the warrant article and in the case of a ballot measure. So the other reason to look at further defining things is, you know, historically, you know, we have, you know, been advised that we can, you know, sort of somewhat self-determine, you know, what moderate income is for Nantucket. We're now like pushing, let's say, the upper limits of what one might reasonably consider to be in the realm of moderate. However, there's precedent in other communities across the country, such as Aspen, for, you know, even higher than 200% AMI, up to 240% AMI. At the recent town meeting approved the new home rule petition for the transfer fee at 240% AMI. So we want to bring ourselves in alignment with the language that's in that home rule petition, given that we think that there may be an opportunity to get that done under a new administration.
Great. So Tucker, are you recommending going to 240 or 250 or
well, I mean, 240 is what is in our home rule petition. It does jibe with the upper limit that Aspen has. I mean, I don't think there's a reason to do anything above that at this juncture. But I think we want to, codify what we can do, as Vicky was speaking to.
Vicky, do you think this needs to be included in our act? Do we need to change our enabling legislation, or do we just do this separately?
So that's a good question, because I actually just wrote myself a note to consider whether we want to go and have special legislation accompany this vote. So that's something that I can tell you, I just want to look at that question.
Good.
And then I can come back to you and tell you definitively whether I would go that route or not. We may want to. The only thing is that every time, though, we're going to change that, we're going to have to go back and do special legislation. So let me come back to you with an answer after I've taken a look at what the statute may require too.
Great. Brooke.
So in practicality, we are expending funds up to the highest limit we've done is 175% AMI through closing cost assistance. So that's sort of in practice what our upper limit has been. I'd love to codify this. I find it interesting that we, that it was sort of like we can sort of set our own limits, but now, we're being advised to ask town meeting to approve that sort of as belts and suspenders or a new understanding. And so I would totally be in favor of requesting town meeting to approve the 240% number as our upper limit. And then obviously leaving it as easy as possible or as least restrictive as possible in terms of if we need to bump it later, being able to do that, because going back to Beacon Hill for anything can be challenging. If we can avoid that, great. But I actually like the idea of confirming this at town meeting and getting consensus from the community on it.
I agree. Vicky?
So we any change that we do with respect to that would have to go to town meeting at least. And I agree with you that if we can probably avoid having special legislation, that's better. But like I said, I'm just going to take a look at that. The other thing that I just want to comment on, one thing that Tucker raised having to do with the buckets. And so there are some buckets that have no restrictions on them right now, I think according to Tucker. Are there any restrictions though on it as to whether these units have to be able to qualify on the shy list? And so if we're looking at higher limits to use the undesignated money, would those units qualify?
So I have to look at the language, but I'm not sure that they do when it comes to the bonding authority associated with Article 10 in 2021 and Article 10 again in 2022 and Article 20 in 2022. That I think the language doesn't necessarily get into AMI limits and also whether they must qualify in the SHI or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Penny, and then
Through you, Tucker, Sally's trying to get in. Brian is waiting.
No,
Haley, can you?
Yeah, thanks.
Yes. So Brian, if you're ready, we are in the middle of item 11, the warrant articles. He's just about there. He's muted. You're muted, Brian, sweetie.
So I'm not entirely ready. I'm trying to, I came in on a.
Just wave when you're ready. All right. Now, as far as zoning, Tucker, do you have any proposals or ideas? If not, any members of the board on any zoning ideas for housing related articles? Dave?
Off the top of my head, no, but I think, I mean, last year, I think it was you and I, Rima, that went and sat down with Andrew. I think that we should probably do that again this year.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm free as a bird.
Okay.
Good.
Brooks, go ahead.
Rena, it's Brooke. Dave, was through you, Dave, was there anything more we needed to do related to those Tom Nevers lot situation that you and I had talked about?
So I think that there's some room there to talk about the taboo subject of ground cover. Just because there's such large lots that have a small build out. And so I mean, I think, again, we should talk to Andrew about this, but the 2 covenant went through, I believe, right? And so I think to maybe accommodate that, in some sense, we should explore the possibility of, and I say for affordable units only, or for covenants that we take the temperature of the town about getting some bonus ground cover out there.
Yeah, just to clarify, there was a unique and an individual situation of someone in Tom Nevers who was wanting to create a covenant home for a long time year-round resident, and they ran up against some difficulties in ground cover and existing secondary dwelling, and so on a huge lot, and so it seemed a little absurd that a property owner trying to do the right thing by creating a covenant home was a little bit hamstrung. And was there something that we could do? Again, only in the event of it being a deed restricted, affordable home, the ground cover, any ground cover bonus would only be available for that purpose.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to just kind of piggyback on that. I think it's important to remember is that a lot of those stuff out there is lug 3, and it has a 3% ground cover. So on those bigger lots, it just seems like a waste of, I hate to sound like Nat here, but a waste of dirt. And you know, I love open space as much as the next, but desperate times, desperate measures.
One more thought, in the interest of, you know, this idea of spreading our deed restricted housing throughout the island, this would be in the service of allowing housing opportunities in more, you know, more remote locations without a lot of huge impact. So.
Well, that sounds like something to put on the list for Andrew to look at those larger lots in the bigger zoning districts. And
100%.
Good. Okay, Brian, are you ready? Yes, he is. I am turning the meeting over to our chairman, Brian Sully Sullivan.
Thank you, Rena. I just have one note on the discussion that was just happening between Dave and Brooke. I think one thing that we could look to some other housing advocates and partners is to publicize all the work that was done last year at last year's town meeting that was approved in changes in zoning, because I find that it takes a long time for zoning changes to kind of matriculate to the end user or the community itself. So if there's a way that we can look to help educate the general public on what changes did happen last year, we may see a faster opportunity for people coming in. Dave?
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I mean, you're 100% right. You introduce the idea to these to most people with zoning changes and they lose their minds. They, you know, we can't do that. And then they ponder it for a little while and they come back. And I think that's why sometimes it takes a couple of years for zoning changes to pass at town meeting. So maybe when we come up with a really good warrant article that we can all get behind. Maybe we should really kind of get it out there and promote it and let people really kind of turn it over in their head for a few months before we get to a town meeting.
I think I agree with that 100%, Dave, but I think even the ones we just approved.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
I don't know how many people know that we increased the size of a tertiary dwelling footprint, right? Or square footage, or that we did create zoning for 2 covenants in certain parts of the island in certain zoning. So I think if if we can work through some outreach on that.
Brian, if I could, and maybe Tucker, we could have a slide in the presentation about that. If you don't already.
Yes, I was just making a note that we'll have a zoning slide.
Okay, great.
Rima, thank you for carrying it to where we were, but did anyone else want to bring up zoning concepts or ideas? Brooke?
I just want to say, I've been trying to talk up the idea of the covenant lot being a downsizing alternative for folks who are aging out of needing their larger homes. And so maybe there's just sort of a how can you personally help the housing crisis and benefit yourself in the process kind of education program that happens just at some point to the community.
You can even make your larger home the covenant and stay in it, right? There's a lot of flexibility. It's interesting. Okay, I find that those of us who talk about this all the time know about this, but there's a greater portion of the community that may not have heard it in a forum like this and be able to see it. I'm going to ask for assistance because I'm using my phone. I can't see all the participants. Are there any more comments, questions on this item? Warrant articles number 10. Okay, so I'm seeing none. So close item 10 and we'll move to item 11. We have a member of the public, Mr. Merson. Thank you for joining us today. And you have a proposal to bring to us related to affordable unit creation. So looking forward to hearing your thoughts.
Thank you, Sully. My name is John Merson. When I put this meeting title on my calendar, Google helpfully changed it to Adorable Housing Trust. So I thought that was a good sign. Listening to this discussion is a very helpful overview of the issues involved in creating affordable housing. For the last 25 years, I've been buying and rebuilding principally old homes. And so I've worked with a great many people in the building community. And I was mentioning to Tucker that for the next project I'm interested in building a 2-family house, half of which I would rent to a year-round resident. And Tucker suggested that I come to this meeting and start educating myself. So I'm embarking on that venture. Thank you.
Great, thank you, John. So is your intent on the agenda item to offer us some sort of proposal about the development of that 2-family, or really kind of a listening tour to get a greater understanding of some of the things we're working on?
Well, I'm certainly here primarily to listen and learn. The concept that I have in mind is to find a piece of land that would accommodate a 2-family house, which I would finance and build myself, and then have half rented under the affordable rental program. So that's the basic idea.
I appreciate the concept and the thought, and thank you for joining us. One of the things that we find as people learn more about opportunities and programs is the understanding of how the lottery system works and restrictions on deed to affordability. Are those things you're familiar with and would consider in this scenario?
I would say I have a very 30,000 foot understanding and a lot of details still to learn.
Well, would like to be a resource for you and answer any questions if you'd like to ask any now or follow up on paper, or if we can bring you from 30,000 to 10, let us know how we can do that.
Well, I think the key to this whole project is to find a piece of land where something like this would work, at which point all the gory details become super relevant. But to find the land is really the key to the project.
It is the hardest part of Nantucket, and as we move forward and finding solutions to these challenges. So, go ahead, Brooke.
So I think what's interesting here is we have a community member who's willing to perhaps put forward a friendly 40B proposal, which Mr. Merson, I don't know whether you're familiar, but it is possible potentially to develop a property that wouldn't necessarily be eligible for a 2-family unit out of the box, but through a supported friendly 40B application, this board could help you move it through the process of getting authorization to do a duplex unit rather than a single family unit on a particular lot. So it might open up the different land opportunities you might look at where you might preclude them because they don't automatically qualify for a 2-family by zoning, but we could, as a community, help shepherd that through in the greater interest of the community. And so that might be something else that you could explore, is the concept of a friendly 40B, which would give you exemption from some zoning that might otherwise restrict the development, as one idea.
Brooke, if I may, an example of a friendly 40B that was built by Housing Nantucket is the proper address. Do I have it 7 Surfside Road? Is that it across from the school? The 4 small cottages?
That was not a 40B.
Oh, how did that end up working? It changed at the last minute, or?
It started as a 40B and then
We
they ran
changed
into some
zoning.
challenges and the zoning was changed, I believe.
Is that done through workforce housing? Is that how that was done? I'm not sure.
Ann is here.
I can't see everybody, so I don't know if there's a hand up. I apologize. I'm working from a phone.
Ann's hand is up.
Ann, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
7 Surfside. Basically, we started out, as Tucker said, as a 40B. So we went to the ZBA and tried to get a 40B zoning relief so we could put 4 cottages on there. But unfortunately, there was some resistance from some of the neighbors and some testimony about that. And it became too expensive for us to meet all of the needs of the different departments that weighed in on that. So we aborted ship on that one. And then there were some zoning changes there. The property changed to CN zone, which then allowed apartment buildings. And one of the qualifications of an apartment building, you can have separate structures actually and still be considered an apartment building. So then we were able to facilitate it within zoning that way. Those houses, those 4 dwellings are on the subsidized housing inventory list. One of them is a below 80% AMI unit, like mandatory. The other 3 just happen to have some residents who are
in that category because that's our mission, but everybody below certainly below 150%, without seeing their incomes in front of me, they're in the 150 to say 80% AMI level.
And thank you for that update. Hopefully that's helpful background for you, Mr. Merson.
Thank you.
Are there any hands up that I can't see? I only have 8 in my window. I'm trying to figure out how to. Okay, assuming none, we'll close item 11, Mr. Merson, and we'll move to 12 other business. Looks like we'll have a quick update, Tucker, on the state of housing workshop.
We've done that.
Oh, thank you. Is all of 12 done? Regular meeting schedule, September 20th?
Yeah, just a note, sorry, I had my hand up, but I know you can't see us all. There is an update here on the schedule. The times are actually flipped, my apologies. So the State of Housing Workshop on Tuesday, August 23rd is at noon. And the AHT meeting on the 20th September, 12:30. And we are having a special meeting, as mentioned before, on 8:30, August 30th, 12:30. The select board is going to be posting their own agenda and Zoom link for those who want to join State of Housing Workshop virtually, or they can come to the community room. I will also include the link on the agenda for our special meeting on 8:30 for anyone who might be looking to our agendas in order to join that, just so it's accessible to everyone in multiple ways. And I'll send an invite to everyone here on calendar for both the 8:30 Affordable Housing Trust special meeting, and I'll also send out an invitation for the State of Housing Workshop so that everyone has it on their calendar in an easy way.
Great, thank you, Haley. So moving through other business, we'll now move to item 13, board comments. Does any members of the board have comments not on the agenda?
Yeah, I have one.
Go ahead, Penny.
Yeah, it's not about the holiday party. It's about wishing Tucker a happy birthday.
Oh,
Thank you, Penny. Tucker did not tell me.
Super top secret.
We're trying to fly low on the radar here, but
Is it a
Happy
big
birthday,
one?
Tucker.
thank
Is
you
it a
guys.
big one?
Just making it to another one is a big one, isn't it? No,
Yeah, he's finally 21. We're gonna chicken box tonight.
Oh boy.
Aha. Thank you all. Thank you, Penny. I know where you live, Penny. Okay.
Okay, so any other board comments? We'll move from that before it goes rogue. Okay, seeing none. Item number 14, does we have executive session listed? Does anybody have a motion as related to executive session, i.e. Penny or Brooke? Oh, wait,
I can try and wing it.
hang on, Penny. Vicky wants to come in. You're on mute.
I don't have a motion for it, but if someone can send me the link for the executive session meeting, because I didn't get one, the invite. So thank you. Thanks a lot.
I'll send you that, Vicky.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Penny.
Well, Brian, you want me to try and wing it? I can try.
Sure, that'd be great.
I don't have it written down, but I'll make motion that we adjourn this regular meeting with Affordable Housing Trust not to return for the purposes of going into executive session. Oops, for the purposes of discussing agenda items that may that may compromise our position in a public meeting, something like that.
For the purchase, exchange, lease, or real value of property.
That's it. Exchange. So we can do our job.
Is there
second.
okay,
Oh,
second
thank God.
roll call? Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Meg Browers,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
Brian, Dave Iverson,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye.
And Shanta and I.
I'm sorry, Shanta, I didn't see you. Thank you. Shanta's an aye. All right, so with that, we'll see you on the next link. How do I get out of here?